You know, I've had a lot of time to digest the New York Giants game versus the Dallas Cowboys on Thursday night. I came away impressed with a lot of things, and I still can't understand for the life of me why people don't get, or there's so many out there that believe that Daniel Jones just isn't going to be what gets this team to the promised land. I'm going to break down his game, and I'm going to tell you what he did well, and I'm going to tell you why it's just not good enough. I'm Coach Gene Clemons, and I've got a giant issue.
3, 2, 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of A Giant Issue. I am Coach Gene Clemons, New York Giants on SI. That's where you can go and get all of your New York Giants news and information. Make sure you go there first and then come over here. Or actually come over here to New York Giants on SI YouTube channel, where you can listen to myself. You can listen to Paul Dottino on the Bit Blue Breakdown. You can hear everything that we have to say on the team that you love. And then, you know what? Pop up that little extra icon box and be on New York Giants on SI and read all of the good stuff over there. I told you last week when we were talking about, my plays, my fantasy football and single game fantasy plays. I told you I like Daniel Jones for an anytime touchdown. You already know by now that he didn't throw any touchdowns, which means that not only did I lose the Daniel Jones anytime touchdown or passing touchdown bet, but I also lost the wager. And then I also lost the Malik Neighbors over or higher than 1 to 2 receiving and rushing touchdowns. So it's interesting because you would think that a guy who can be so accurate in the short game would have better success when you got closer to the goal line. But the one thing that we don't account for when we're watching quarterbacks play is the closer you get to the end zone, the less there is of a threat of getting beat over the top. So now, if I'm a defensive back, I don't have to respect you as much. I don't have to give you as much cushion because I know I have the back of the end zone to play with. And so that's one of the reasons why this New York Giants team just can't seem to score touchdowns, not on a regular basis. If you listened to me yesterday, on the Monday show, I talked about the issues in that Dallas Cowboy game coming down to there being no legitimate aggression and or imagination in getting the ball in the end zone. I stand by it, right? I stand by it because I know what it takes in order to score down there, right? I know what it takes in order to score when you have no other choice. Like you know that the other team is going to be able to put points on the board, and you have to be ready to match their energy. And the New York Giants were not ready to match their energy. And the reason that they weren't ready to match their energy is because of the play calling. That's part of it. That's half. And yesterday, on Monday, we talked about the fact that this falls at the feet of Brian Daboll as the head coach and play caller on this offense, who said, hey, this offense isn't good enough over the first 2 years. I'm going to step in and fix the things that are wrong with this offense. The hubris of the head coach took over, the pride, the ego, and said, no, I know what it takes to fix this offense, and I'm going to do it. And at the same time, he must have said, I believe that Daniel Jones can do it. Ladies and gentlemen, he was wrong. He was wrong. Because this offense is good enough to move the ball consistently. But this offense is a dink and dunk offense. And dink and dunk offenses rarely beat anyone consistently. Why? Because everything has to be a long drive. Everything has to be precision. Everything has to be completed, or else, as soon as you fall behind the chains, that's where issues happen. As soon as you fall off rhythm, that's where issues happen. And why did I come out in my introduction and say that Daniel Jones is doing what he is doing what he can, and why it's not good enough? This is the reason. Because Daniel Jones is your perfect quintessential dink and dunk quarterback. It is short pass, short pass, short pass, short pass. If you don't believe me, do yourself a favor. Go and go to your favorite place where you go and look up Giant stats, right? Go to the game and look up the play log, right? Go to the game, look up the play log. And while you're looking up the play log, right? While you're looking up the play log, I want you to look at what the descriptions of every play says. Right? I'm just gonna give you a start to what it says for the New York Giants. Right? This is how the game starts. Singletary on right tackle, New York Giants for 5 yards. Tracy up the middle, New York Giants 21 for 1 yard. Daniel Jones passed deep left to Malik Neighbors, pushed out of bounds at Dallas 40 for 39 yards. Stop. That is where we start the issue that I have with Daniel Jones. In that play, right? In that play, it was a double move. The double move was executed perfectly by Malik Neighbors on the left side. It was a hitch and go. He flashed the hands, turned. The DB drove because it was third down. He flew by him, right? And instead of there being a laser beam thrown on him where he catches it in stride and runs into the end zone, it was a lob pass that Malik Neighbors had to turn around and gather. And by the time the ball got there and he turned around and he gathered it, other defenders were there. You know where that doesn't happen? To quarterbacks who know how to throw the ball deep. To quarterbacks who know that the time to release the ball on the hitch and go isn't after he's already ran by the person. The time to release the ball on the hitch and go is when he hitches. When he hitches and you see that defensive back bite down, you throw the ball right now because he's going to take off and be gone. And by the time he's in stride 1, 2, 3, that ball should be dropping into his basket. The problem is if you don't have the ability to throw with touch deep, you don't know how to put that ball. You don't know how to throw that ball accurately. You don't know how to throw that ball in a manner that's going to be beneficial to your wide receiver. So you can't help him. You can't help yourself. So now a touchdown that should have been a 79-yard touchdown turns into a 39-yard completion. Right? After that, Singletary left in, Jones left in, short pass left, short right, field goal. Next possession, up the middle, right guard, short right, left in, incomplete, deep right intended for Slayton, intercepted by Diggs. Penalty enforced, no play, right? We don't talk about the interception, but there was a deep shot taken. Notice that the deep shots are not yielding the result that the deep shot should yield, right? So, because they don't yield, all we get after that, ladies and gentlemen, is short pass, short pass, short pass. We get a deep pass left to Slayton, ran out of bounds. That's for a 28-yard gain. Yes, that's considered deep, but it's not really deep, right? We get a deep pass, incomplete deep to try and roll Tracy. That's the illegal shift. But all of the success, short pass, short pass, short pass, especially when we get into the red zone. And so you end up looking at what Daniel Jones did in like on his statistics, right? You look at the statistics from the game, and the statistics from the game would lead you to believe that he had a really good game, right? 29 for 40, 281 yards, only sacked once, and his one interception was was at the end of the game when they all of a sudden put in Jalen Hyatt to run a deep ball. They threw it up. I'm not going to count that against him, even though I know it counts, right? But what don't you see? You don't see any touchdowns. Let's juxtapose that by the other top throwers this week. Jordan Love, 389 yards, 4 touchdowns. Baker Mayfield, 347 yards, 2 touchdowns. Stroud, 345, 2 touchdowns. Justin Fields, 312, a touchdown. Brock Purdy, 288, a touchdown. That's when you get to Daniel Jones. After him, Sam Darnold, 275, 3 touchdowns. Patrick Mahomes, 245, and a touchdown. The people who are throwing the ball like that, when they have a good game, lots of attempts, they throw touchdowns. Daniel Jones threw the ball 40 times. Not one touchdown. Not one touchdown. How can we sit out here and say that it's a good game for Daniel Jones when he's not throwing any touchdowns? Right? When he's not putting the ball in the end zone. And not for nothing, he completed 29 passes, right? He completed 29 passes. He threw the ball 40 times. His average yards per attempt was 7 yards. His average yards per attempt were 7 yards. You want to know who? We want to know the other people who had not a lot of or had less than 7 yards? Derek Carr. They lost. Kirk Cousins. They won in spite of Kirk Cousins. Aaron Rodgers. They lost. Andy Dalton. They lost. Josh Allen. They lost. Justin Herbert. They lost. Deshaun Watson. They lost. Trevor Lawrence. They lost. Jacoby Brissett. They lost. Joe Flacco won, but he won essentially because they're before he went out, they had already kind of got the ball rolling with Anthony Richardson. He just can't. He didn't even play the entire game. Jalen Hurts, they lost. Caleb Williams, they won 6.8. But you know why they won? Because the guy that they were playing, he had a much lower completion percentage. When you are completing when you are throwing the ball and you are averaging 7 or less yards per attempt, it's going to be hard for you to win football games because the defense can just continue to rally to you, and wait for you to make a mistake. And that's what they were doing. That's what they were doing. They were just sitting back, waiting for the New York Giants to make a mistake. You know what else that happens when you're throwing the ball and you're dinking and dunking? They can play closer. So then what else doesn't come open? The run game. Devin Singletary, 14 attempts for 24 yards. As a team, they ran the ball 24 times. They only had 26 yards. When you throw the ball 40 times, that defense should be afraid of you to run. They weren't afraid to run. They let you dink and dunk it all over the place, right? They let Daniel Jones just dink and dunk it all over the place. And then when he got inside the 20, they tightened up. And they had to settle for field goals. That's what happened. 7 yards of attempt, ladies and gentlemen. You want to know what else I didn't like. Malik Neighbors gets 15 targets. Almost all of them are underneath. The two deep shots that they take to Malik Neighbors, both should have been touchdowns. The first one I already talked to you about. The second one, right, was on a rollout. Daniel Jones was rolling out to his right. He was rolling out to his right. And Malik Neighbors was running across back to the left. And Malik Neighbors beats the defensive back early. Daniel Jones does not throw the ball early. He waits. Then he throws the ball up. But now because he had to wait and he had to throw the ball up, he doesn't take advantage of what? Anticipation, which means his arm strength isn't big enough to just throw it out there so that he has to run up underneath it. So now he has to stop. That also allows another defensive back to come over and break the pass up. What should have been a clear completion and touchdown ball ends up being an incompletion. Not a big gain. We don't have to back up. Malik Neighbors was targeted 15 times. He caught 12 passes. For 115 yards. That is a 9.6 yard average. That, ladies and gentlemen, is horrible for an elite level number one receiver. I know y'all don't know this. It's cool. Wan'Dale Robinson was targeted 14 times. He caught 11 passes for 71 yards. That's 6.5 yards a reception. Ladies and gentlemen, that is not good for an elite level number two receiver. Darius Slayton only got 5 targets. He caught 3 passes for 56 yards. So on his 3 passes, he caught half the yardage that Malik Neighbors caught over 12 passes. I have one simple question for you. Why are you not targeting Darius Slayton more? Why is Darius Slayton getting 3-to-1 target share versus Malik Neighbors? Why is Malik Neighbors getting 15 targets and Wan'Dale Robinson getting 14 targets and Darius Slayton getting 5? This isn't about me liking Darius Slayton. This is about how you distribute the ball in your offense so that other people have an opportunity to get free. You want to know why Malik Neighbors isn't catching a lot of deep passes? You want to know why Wan'Dale Robinson doesn't? Because you're not throwing the ball more to the other receivers. When does Malik Neighbors have a lot of time to get behind the defense where he's not the number one option in the play? See, what should happen is if you threw the ball more to Darius Slayton, and this number looked more like, I don't know, 15, 12, 8, or 15, 10, 9, or 13, 10, 8, 5, because you're throwing the ball 5 times to Jalen Hyatt or to a tight end, right? If these numbers were more even, right? If those targets were dispersed a little bit more evenly, and there was any fear of Darius Slayton because they know that you're going to target him, now Neighbors or Wan'Dale Robinson would have the opportunity to get in behind the defense because the defense has to worry about you targeting Slayton. But they don't. They don't have to worry about targeting Slayton. And there's some times where you're dinking and dunking it to Neighbors and to Wan'Dale Robinson where Slayton is open behind them. Where there's another guy deeper than the one you're shooting the little BB to that's behind them. But there's no chance to see that because it is catch up, throw, and get the ball out and it's dink and dunk and dink and dunk and dink and dunk. And what happens is, as soon as you make one mistake, as soon as you don't hit right in those situations, as soon as something didn't go the way that you planned it to go, everything is messed up. Everything is ruined. These things have a way of working themselves out because defenses don't have to account for everything. When you don't make the defense account for everything, then the defense can just lock in on the two. That's why Malik Neighbors ends up concussed at the end of the game. Why? Because they know you're going to throw the ball to Malik Neighbors. You're not throwing it to anyone else. Of course you're going to throw it to Malik Neighbors. If I'm a defensive coach, I know for a fact, hey, he's going to throw it to Malik Neighbors, right? We all know this. He's going to throw the ball to Malik Neighbors. So let's sit on Malik Neighbors, and when he does catch the ball, let's make him pay for it. Like, that's not hard to figure out. In fact, it's too easy to figure out. That's the problem. You can't have a potent offense. You can't have a potent offense where you're looking around at who's supposed to get the ball and everybody knows who's supposed to get the ball. That's not how the potent offense is supposed to work. The potent offense works when your quarterback doesn't just feed one guy the ball 40% of the time, right? If I'm going to throw the ball 40 times in the game, right? If I'm going to throw the ball 40 times in the game, 37.5% of the time should not be the one guy. I know everybody's like, oh, well, yeah, we got a stud. Do you really have a stud? Like, is he really good? Or is he really just getting targeted a lot? Now, I'm saying that tongue in cheek, right? I'm saying it tongue in cheek because I believe that Malik Neighbors is really good. Like, I believe he's that good. But that doesn't change my point, right? That doesn't change my point. My point is that when you have a talent, the way that you get that talent, the ball is to not force feed them the ball so that all they do is catch it and get hit. Like, you don't want that guy to constantly be sitting there catching the ball and taking hits. He's a Ferrari, right? He's a Ferrari. You don't run a Ferrari in NASCAR. There's a reason why Ferrari is not in NASCAR. Why do you think that is? It's because those cars are not built to take that type of punishment. And if you know that those cars are not built to take that type of punishment, then why are you punishing them? Right? Like, if you already know that that car is not built to do that, then why are you doing it with them? You're setting them up for failure. And in this case, for a guy like Malik Neighbors, failure isn't, or he's not going to catch the ball. Failure is that he's going to catch it. And when he does, he's going to get hit. He's going to take punishment that he doesn't need to take. That's all. That's simple. You can say the same thing for Wan'Dale Robinson. So until he stops dinking and dunking it, right, they're going to struggle. But also, if the only people he ever dinks and dunks it to is Malik Neighbors and Wan'Dale Robinson, you know what they'll start doing? They'll just start keying on that. Okay, we know that 37.5% of his passes go to Malik Neighbors, right? The other 27.5% goes to Wan'Dale Robinson. So almost 70% of their passes are going to two players. We're going to sit on those two players and we're going to say, hey, Daniel Jones, prove to us you can throw it somewhere else. Which means that those two players are going to take inordinate amounts of punishment. How does that help them get better? How does that help him get better? You can't be out here missing downfield shots, missing intermediate shots, and then just dinking and dunking it down to these dudes so that they can just take the punishment all day. That's not what good quarterbacks do. That's what mediocre quarterbacks do. And that's what he is. He's mediocre. Mediocre meaning basic, regular, nothing special. That's what that means. We have to stop trying to conflate it and make it seem like we're, he's getting better. How? How is he getting better? Where is he getting better at? If this ain't the same Daniel Jones that you've been seeing for 6 years, then what are we talking about? Listen, he's not a bad quarterback. He's just not good. And if he doesn't find a way to attack downfield, they're never going to win games consistently. And they're never going to beat a good team. They're barely beating mediocre teams. While everybody was like, man, Daniel Jones played really good, I just couldn't help. I had to wait because I wanted to let everybody kind of get their love affair off real quick. I couldn't be the one out here going, man, that game wasn't good at all. But it wasn't. It wasn't a winning football game. Let's say that. He didn't play poorly. It just wasn't a winning effort. And until he gives a winning effort, this is going to be the result. It'll be close losses to teams that nobody believes have a chance to win a Super Bowl. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all the time I have today. Make sure you go into New York Giants on SI for all of your New York Giants news and information. Make sure you come to the New York Giants YouTube page, right? Hit that subscribe button. Get us up there to 2,000 subscribers. We'd appreciate it. And until next time, I'm Coach Gene Clemons, and I've got a giant issue.